we going? Okay, I think Kristin will be offering our call to worship. Kristin?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I won't do this every time, but as we're figuring it out this way, I want to make sure that you're actually able to hear me.
We're dealing with audio.
I'll keep talking. Can you hear me? Folks online can. I like the thumbs up. Thank you, Tom. Can you hear me yet?
We can hear you, Kristin.
All right.
Go ahead.
I will offer these words from Joan Javier Duval for our call to worship this morning. Out of depths unknown, the spark of life ignites, and we are born. We enter a world, a universe not of our making. Our lives unfold in mystery and wonder. Questions abound for which there are no definite answers. And so we gather in community to seek in one another assurance and recognition, compassion and strength. We gather in community to be reminded of what is most ultimate and what is most sacred. In this spirit of searching and of reverence, let us worship together this morning.
Thank you, Kristin. And now we will start with our chalice lighting. Holly will assist us, so please come forward and join with us lighting our chalice by saying the chalice lighting words in the order of service, or maybe up on the screen. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. Thank you, Holly. Now, formal good morning. Good morning to all of you. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ogden. My name is Tim Vandenack, and I am the worship leader today. Welcome to all of you here in person, those online, and our new minister, Kristin, who you just saw up on the screen from, I believe, California. So, as you know, she is serving as a minister. She'll be doing kind of long-distance services with us, so we appreciate her and welcome her. Today is Reformation Sunday. Our friends over in the Presbyterian Church, they're celebrating with bagpipes, as I think you have already noticed. So that's why we started a little bit later, just to give them a chance to do their introduction. There may be, I believe there will be more bagpipe music through their service, so we will try to roll with it. I think they may do another procession through here, not totally sure, but just so you're prepared. So the UU Church is a welcoming, inclusive place where diversity of thought is encouraged, sought, and appreciated. Doesn't matter who you love or how you identify yourself. We come here because we want to think for ourselves and explore with others. We ask questions, value the exchange of ideas, and the depth that can come from being in community. If you're new here today, welcome. Thank you for coming. Fill out a newcomer card in the pews and put it in the offering basket when it comes by later. Please stay and chat with us after the service. If you're joining us online, please fill out the newcomer card online. Please put your phones on silent, but feel free to take pictures of the service and to post what you hear and see online. Send the message to the broader community. The presence of each and every one of you adds to the atmosphere, and we are glad you're here. Welcome. Kristin will offer our opening reflection.
All right, I'm going to try this again. Can you hear me? I need a thumbs up from the congregation. I have you on my screen. Can I see a thumbs up? Okay, yay. So I have a story for us this morning, but first I wanted to say, I walked into Target last week, and you might have seen this in other places. All of the Halloween stuff was already on sale because they were making room for all of the Christmas trees. Have you all been seeing this? And I scoffed, as I do every single October, and I said, in October? And today I have a Christmas story for you. This story comes to us from a Unitarian Universalist educator named Becky Brooks. So Becky starts her story like this. The Christmas Eve pageant had been beautiful and sweet, but as a stressed out director of religious education, I will admit that the best part about it was that it was over. I sat myself down at the community potluck with my hot cocoa, and I relaxed for what felt like the first time in a month. And that's when a 7-year-old Gabe appeared with a solemn expression. Ms. Becky, Gabe said, if I ask you a question, do you promise to tell me the truth? For future reference, if a child under 10 asks you this question at Christmas time, evade, she says. The question I had so naively walked right into was, do you believe that there's a Santa Claus? I'm certain that all the color drained immediately from my face. Despite being close with Gabe's family, I had absolutely no idea what his parents or siblings had told him, what hard-won magic I might unravel with my answer. So I stalled, sipping my cocoa casually, hoping I looked thoughtful and not panicked. And I dodged the question. I don't know. What do you think? He paused and sighed, and then said sadly, I don't think he exists. Gabe explained that he was skeptical about the physics of Santa Claus being everywhere around the world simultaneously. I assured him that that was a reasonable doubt to have. I wondered, though, I said, what if Santa can be everywhere at once because he's magic? And Gabe considered that. He wasn't sure he believed in magic, but he also wasn't sure he didn't believe in magic. If there was no Santa, I asked, then who brings the presents? Gabe suspected that his parents did. And at this point, I felt sure all was lost. I was watching a rock slide along the edge of his childhood as reason and logic stormed through his mind. But then Gabe had a new thought. What if Santa is real, but his work happens through parents? So parents, he said, are like helpers who make sure all the presents get put out because Santa can't be everywhere all at once. Like God, he said. His words hung there between us, a sparkling, guiding star. We talked about Santa and God and magic and the meaning of truth for almost 30 minutes. And he left our conversation with as much doubt and as much belief as he had entered it with. And I left with a treasured glimpse of grace. This was our gift to each other, companionship through a moment of sacred struggle where the holy imagination built us a way.
Thank you, Kristin. Joseph, our opening hymn, do you want to introduce?
Yes, this is in the gray hymnal, number 1. May nothing evil cross this door. And please stand in body or spirit. 1 through 4, and then we'll come back to revisit verse 1.
Now, we will hear the main message from Kristin. Kristin?
Thanks, Tim. I have to say how very grateful before I get started with our message that I am to be joining you on Zoom today. And we've had challenges over the weeks with being able to hear everything on Zoom. And today I am hearing our beautiful choir and our beautiful piano so well. So I'm so very, very grateful for that. So I was leading a time for all ages at a congregation one time. That's the time during the service when all of the young and young at heart come forward to the front of the sanctuary, and we do a story or an activity that's geared towards our youngest members. So I was leading a story about how we are all held under one umbrella. And I got to the point in the story when I talked about this theme, and I brought out my prop, which was a huge, beautiful rainbow umbrella. And I dramatically popped it open. And several people in the room gasped. And I realized later that it was not because my rainbow umbrella was so beautiful. It was because you are not supposed to open an umbrella indoors. It is bad luck. It's up there with walking under ladders and spilling salt and breaking a mirror. If you don't want bad luck in your life, and most of us are not looking to intentionally add bad luck, you just don't do it. And even in a room full of Unitarian Universalists who pride themselves in being a religion of reason and rationality, they still gasped at my faux pas. I love things like this because it does seem practical not to open an umbrella indoors because they're big and they're pokey and they pop open and they can hurt someone or break something. So it's practical for safety reasons. And of course, that isn't the reason that people are superstitious about them. One version of the origins of this belief is that because umbrellas shade us from the sun, they're somehow magical. And when the umbrella is opened inside, out of the way of sun's rays, it offends the sun god, thus evoking negative repercussions. Many other superstitions also have ancient historical rationale. We don't walk under ladders because 5,000 years ago in Egypt, they believed that triangles were sacred. And a ladder leaning against a wall formed a triangle, a trinity of the gods. And passing through that triangle would be a form of desecration. And then later, early Christians took over the superstition of the ladder, and they linked it to the crucifixion, and they avoided walking under ladders for fear of wickedness and betrayal. And in ancient Greece, It was believed that seeing your reflection in a pool of water was a way of seeing your soul. And so when Romans later began creating mirrors, it was believed that the gods could see your soul through these tools. And of course, these new tools were quite breakable. And it was believed that when they inevitably broke, your soul was breaking too. But just for 7 years, the amount of time that it would take to replace all the cells in your physical body. Other so-called irrational beliefs are more about things like jinxing. Just last week, my husband put our kiddo, she's 3, down for a nap. And when he came back, I started to say, wow, she's been taking great naps lately. And he glared at me with 1,000 daggers, assuming I had just willed her to wake up immediately. And even when we unravel our own irrational beliefs with reason or science, we can still subconsciously hold a belief in it. On my wedding day, a black cat ran in front of the road right in front of me. And I couldn't help gasping out loud and telling myself that there was absolutely no reason why the experience would have any impact or underlying meaning in my marriage, right? I wasn't too sure. One of the requirements for becoming a Unitarian Universalist minister is to work in a hospital, offering pastoral care to those who are experiencing illness and emergencies. So every morning at my hospital, I would join the rounds with those who were on the floor that I was offering care. And one weekend I came into the hospital and I was still very new to the role, and it was very quiet and there were almost no patients anywhere on our floor. And in my great naivete, I said loudly, "It's quiet today." And the look of horror that I received taught me very quickly that you do not ever say that in a hospital. So, is there any truth to the idea that me putting that out into the atmosphere could truly jinx us and mean that the weekend would now be an overwhelming flood of sick people and tragedy and challenge? I don't know. And there's a part of me that knows deep down that I also don't not believe it. I don't not believe it. A couple weeks ago, I flew out to Ogden to be with you for a weekend of getting to know each other. It was so sweet to get to know all of you in person. Our first social gathering was incidentally held on Friday the 13th, but we won't focus too much on that. At that auspicious first social gathering, one of you asked me if I believe in UFOs. And I said, I don't not believe. Do any of you feel that way about certain things? Anyone have a seemingly irrational belief like this? Like, I don't not believe. There could be UFOs. Just like it could be true that noting the calmness in the hospital would jinx us. I don't not believe. Some researchers explain that seemingly irrational beliefs are more along the lines of why tempt fate? Like, despite the fact that there's no scientific reasoning, there is a fact that more than 80% of high-rise buildings all over the world lack a 13th floor. Because why tempt fate, right? So there's a spectrum of unexplainable things that people believe in or don't not believe in. Things like faith and prayer and God and gods. All those things could fall in the same realm of so-called irrational beliefs. Our Unitarian ancestors believed in reason as an important component of faith. Reason for them stood in opposition to things like intuition and emotion. When understanding their beliefs, they wanted to make sure that they were holding reason in as much importance as any kind of intuition or emotion. And so they leaned heavily into science and rationality to understand life, in contrast to what they saw as religious superstitions. Some people consider superstition as showing ignorance of the laws of nature, or beliefs that contrast with established religious practices. And the Oxford English Dictionary is slightly more kind. They say superstition is a belief that particular events happen in a way that cannot be explained by reason or science. Researchers note that our rational brain, whose job is to override that intuitive judgment when it finds what they say are errors. Essentially, our rational brain is designed to override our gut reaction. Researchers say that that rational brain doesn't quite work the same way when it comes to some beliefs. In these instances, people will realize that their belief does not make sense, like the black cat running in front of my car on my wedding day, but they act on that belief nonetheless. Numerous studies have shown that superstitious behaviors can actually be beneficial. They give us a boost of confidence and a feeling of safety. And that in turn can reduce our anxiety. And it's been statistically shown to actually improve our behavior. And of course, others can rationalize this, saying that it's a placebo effect, that manifesting our truth simply by virtue of believing it. But who knows? During the 2006 war in Lebanon, people were forced to flee to safety, and most people did. However, a group of Orthodox Jewish women did not. And these women stayed in a place where they were in very real danger, in what was a very brutal and violent situation. And one of their collective coping mechanisms was to recite regularly the Book of Psalms, which is a collection of 150 poems considered to provide strength and protection. It's really hard, of course, to know if this daily ritual of collectively reciting the Book of Psalms protected them. And they were protected, and they felt comfort, and it lessened their collective anxiety. I don't know what to make of that. I don't not believe that maybe that ritual helped them. As Unitarian Universalists, we try to balance our Unitarian ancestors' desire for reason with a more heart-centered truth-seeking. We juggle our uncertainties with our rational thinking as we try to make sense and make meaning of all of our realities. And sometimes that means sitting in an uncertainty that is uncomfortable. As individuals, we might look for comfort in scientific explanations or in seemingly irrational beliefs. And one Unitarian Universalist minister suggests that the line between those two, between scientific rationale and between those irrational beliefs, that line is much thinner than we want to believe. Science, they suggest, means very literally that we know nothing. Every law is only as good as the first experiment that disproves it. And some of us like to use science as a tool for generating certainty and stability. But science is a tool for discovering and grappling with the unknown. Last year, I supported a family in honoring their loved one who had died. And after this woman's memorial service, the large family headed to the cemetery where we were going to bury her ashes. And I had arrived at the cemetery early to prepare myself and to prepare the space and to feel centered. And it was a beautiful day, still. And I was just standing there and appreciating being in the sunshine, sitting in that still calmness as I waited for the family to arrive. And I watched them start pulling in. And I just stood there watching the cars slowly drive in, slowly park. And the family gently unloaded from the cars, and they began walking over to me. And they moved in that way that folks do when their hearts don't want to do what they're about to do. And as the family slowly processed across the grass to me, a huge gust of wind appeared out of nowhere, like a micro tornado. And it moved across from where I was standing, where we were about to bury this woman's ashes. And it slowly passed all the folks processing across the grass. It blew my papers and it blew people's hair and anything else that was loose as it went along these family members. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it disappeared. It could, of course, have been a strange weather phenomenon, a microburst of air or a dust devil. Her family was in consensus that it had most certainly been her. I don't know. I don't not believe that it was her. There are very real uncertainties in our lives, things that feel beyond explanation. And when I wrestle with the news of the world, like another horrific mass shooting that just happened a few days ago, or the weeks of violent conflict in Palestine and Israel, and we could name any number of things that are happening right now, sometimes I can't fully make sense of it rationally. Science and reason doesn't always cut it. Because I can rationally find blame, like guns or violent TV shows. I can explain long-standing conflicts. I can find a rationale. But here, sometimes it just doesn't make rational sense. Our opening hymn, Gathered Here, was written by Phil Porter during the AIDS epidemic. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. The AIDS epidemic was a time of full grief and despair, of burying loved ones almost daily, and of advocating for care and feeling helpless against ignorance and fear. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, because some things just can't be reasoned out. There are things like human suffering that just feel too big to explain by reason alone. Some things just are not rational. Why do bad things happen to good people, for instance? Why do little kids get sick? Author James Baldwin once wrote, "I think it's better to know that you don't know. And that way you can grow with the mystery as the mystery grows in you." But these days, of course, he says, everybody knows everything. And that's why so many people are lost. Sometimes there are no solid answers to the pain of this world. Sometimes we need both reason and mystery to make sense of how hard life can be. Maybe you've been trying to make sense of some of it through reason. Sometimes when I don't know what to do with the struggles, all I can do is bring them to community and not figure them out rationally, but just sit with them collectively. Sometimes being in the uncertainty is what we can do. I don't know that being together will help us make sense of our lives, but I don't not believe. Gathered here in the mystery of this hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near.
Kristin, will you be doing the prayer, sacred silence? Okay.
So I invite you to settle into the mystery of this hour in whatever way makes sense. I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, to feel the groundedness of your body, contrasting against the wonder of being alive. I invite you to feel the certainty of your feet on the floor or your back against a chair, and then to feel the spaces in between. To feel the energy of the space between you and the person next to you, or you and whatever is near you. And the collective energy of being in community. Let's sit in stillness for a couple minutes in the grand mystery of it all. In a moment, you'll be invited to come forward to light a candle of hope or of memory or of gratitude. And you may also wish to drop a stone of burden or forgiveness in our sacred gathering waters. And if you are joining online this morning, as many of you are, or if you prefer not to come forward, I'm going to ask Tim to light a candle and drop a stone for you now.
Up here. One second.
I'd love to also invite those of you who are online to share in the chat, if you wish, your joys and sorrows, and to hold all of us in gratitude for the wonder of life as we come forward.
Anybody online want a candle lit? Anybody? Okay. And now for our offering. Anything you are able to give, any donation, big or small, helps us continue our efforts and keep this place going. Island, you want to give me a hand with baskets today? Okay. Anyone else? We have two of them. Come on up, Island. Another volunteer? Thank you. Now please stand, embody your voice, and facing the center aisle, sing together the offering song printed in the order of service. Thank you for giving. This offering helps this church, helps us in our effort to improve the world in big ways and small. Be seated, please. We're kind of changing things up a little bit. So now for some announcements. A little later than normal, but we're just trying different things, trying new things. You're welcome to join the Salt Lake City UU Church and the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation for a volunteer day planting trees at the Wuda Agua Restoration Site near Bear River in Preston, Idaho. That's going to be November 4th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. With city elections coming up all across Weber County and around the state, you can find more information about the candidates at vote411.org. That's VOTE, the number 4, number 1, number 1.org. That's an online initiative of the League of Women Voters. The First Presbyterian Church is hosting a holiday boutique on November 11th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. I believe the UU Church is also including some items. I'm getting a nod from Debbie, thank you. Again, those are from the newsletter, the online newsletter, so check the weekly newsletter for more details. And now, our closing hymn, which is number 1012, When I Am Frightened. Is that in the black, blue, teal hymnal? So please stand and body your...
The choir will sing the first verse, so you get a feel for how it goes, and then we'll all sing together, just the first verse. What's the number again? 1012.
As the service comes to an end, join me in saying the chalice extinguishing words printed in your order of service. We extinguish this star, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of passion. Our benediction comes from Becky Brooks. May we remember and make space for our doubts. In molding the clay of our lives, may our toolboxes be filled with everything we need, from skepticism to magic, to vulnerable questing and questioning. May our wonderings be a gift to each other. Thank you, and send off music. across the, sorry, Joseph. You're all welcome to come across for coffee and snacks.
It's getting complex. We need to do that.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us online. We had a really nice online crowd today, and we really enjoyed having you on. I think we have a few things that we still are going to need to sort out, but I think we're much improved in terms of the audio and the tech and all that stuff. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you future Sundays, either in person or again online. Happy Halloween.